Welcome to the Painfree Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones. I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm here to help you achieve your fitness goals without pain. In each episode, I'll share tips and strategies that will help you stay safe and pain-free while you're working out. I'll also interview experts in the field of fitness and pain management. So if you're ready to learn how to stay active and pain-free, then subscribe to the Painfree Athlete Podcast today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Painfree Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones, and today I am joined by Daniel Esposito. Daniel is a former NFL player, and after his career ended, his body basically fell apart. Fibromyalgia, degenerative arthritis, severe inflammation, doctors telling him he needed 4 joint replacements before he even turned 50. And instead of doing that, he figured out a completely different path, reversed his conditions naturally, and then went out and won gold medals in the Masters track at 50 years old. He is now the founder of the Undu method and flexibility fuel supplements, and he helps other people get out of chronic pain. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dana. I appreciate it.
So before we get into everything, there's a misconception about people who see NFL players and we think like, hey, you have all this access. Like, How do you protect yourself? Right?
Yeah. So it's funny being in football in general. You just grow up thinking an orthopedic surgeon is your best friend. Eventually you're going to need to get scopes or, you're going to tear, an ACL or do something. And fortunately, nothing happened to me through high school or college. It's, once I got to the NFL, I broke my jaw a couple times, but but all these nagging injuries sort of start showing up later and they get worse and worse and worse as I'm getting older and older and older. And I'm like, gosh, what's going on? So I go for the scopes and I go for, shoulder surgeries, and it was just one after another, after another, after another. And I think all told, I've had about 13 different surgeries. And so as my conditions were getting worse. And just to put it in perspective, I was always really super fast and always very flexible, right? So I wasn't some, hokey football player from Iowa who just putting hay on the truck. I was a Florida athlete. Flexibility was one of my most important tools. And I went from that to literally having zero flexibility. I mean, where I was locked down completely and every single movement was painful. And every orthopedic surgeon and doctor said, oh, it's from your football career. But it wasn't. It happened way after my football career. And I had such a short football career that there's no way it could have been from that. So, you think that surgery is the only way and your doctors are your best friends. And you've got shows like ER that shows doctors as these, problem solvers that are really looking out for you. And the reality is especially for people who are in chronic pain, it's just this dumbfounded look. You're getting older. It's wear and tear, blah, blah, blah. We'll set you up for joint replacements when you turn 50. And that was, kind of how it went for me.
How does that feel? Because I know there's always a mental aspect of that. And there's a grief process that comes when you stop playing because your life is regimented to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
When you're playing a sport, right? Somebody is deciding when you show up, what you have to look like. I think as a professional athlete, it's more about your responsibility about what you're putting in your body and the fuel. But what really happens when you start to see that drop off where you're starting and you're hearing that news from the doctor where they're like, you're just old because you played a lot of contact sports and that's just your life.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as a small child, I had the whole grief and family moving around and all that stuff. And so I was in 5 elementary schools. And so my way to make friends was through sports, was through me being the most athletic kid, like showing up at this new school. And all of a sudden, kids got to be friends with me. And that's how I made friends. And that's kind of how I've made friends my whole life. And, running, my sister would call me the running man or the Energizer bunny because I would go and go and go and go. And then all of a sudden you just can't go even a little bit. Like just sitting around was painful, let alone trying to go. So you become like this tiger that's in a straitjacket that still has this inner fire that wants to move, but you just know that you can't. So it becomes depressing, not only because you're losing identity, but you're not delivering those endorphins anymore. And I think, I went for a run today. It was my first run in a while, and I feel a lot better. Like we were talking earlier, we're both tired today. I feel so I was like, I got to go out for a run. I'm going to, go run because I still don't train much anymore, even though I'm competing at like, world class level and masters sprinting events because there's still some pain, that's still there. It's like I tell people imagine my whole body was filled with cement and I've gotten rid of 80% of it. 20% that I'm still getting rid of is still painful. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it's that's the struggle that I'm dealing with. It's like completely recovery is like right around the turn, but you still have to deal with the reality of I'm in a broken body still, one that's still healing.
That's, so what caused you? Because did you have the, replacements?
No, I didn't have the replace. So the replacements were supposed to start at 50. And I think I was told around 46, 47 is when I was told that was going to happen. And so I'm 54 now. And my youngest son is 8 and his mom's younger. And I was just like 265 pounds. It was 3 months until he was about to be born. I'm in complete pain, but I was at the gym, and I'm just like, I just said out loud to the universe. And, I've become sort of, I don't say religious, but very spiritual and tapped into the ether and the Akashic records during this experience. But I said out loud, I said, I'm going to fix this. And so I just started on this journey of trying to figure it out. And then at 50, when I was supposed to start the joint replacements, that's when I won 2 gold medals in the Masters National Outdoor Championships in Kentucky. I think I'm like a 5-time All-American sprinter now, in my age group. Was ranked 15th in the world last year, and I just came in 3rd at Penn Relays a few weeks ago. So, I mean, literally, like my whole body was locked down and it felt like everything was on fire. And I can't express that enough because I don't think people who don't deal with chronic pain don't understand that's what we're dealing with. But people who do have chronic pain look at me now and think there's no way he could have had chronic pain like that. But it was, I mean, if it wasn't for my oldest son, he's 15, I don't think I'd still be around anymore. I mean, it was not a happy place to be in any way. I mean, I might have tried to be social one day a month, at the most. And I was a pretty social person as a younger guy. And so that life just shuts down when you're in chronic pain.
Well, yeah, there's a, um, I don't know, I guess a part of you that needs to just be kind of within yourself because of the fact that, like, you're just trying to do your best to get through the day.
Yeah.
And that extra expenditure of socializing with people or even having a long conversation feels like an effort. And
Yeah.
if you're only capable of doing 3 things a day, then the conversation's the first one to go.
Yeah. Have you heard of the spoon concept? You have a certain amount of spoons for the day, and each thing that you do, you take a spoon away. So it's like every movement that you have is a negotiation with the rest of the day's pain allowance,
Mhm.
right? It's like, all right, am I going to pick that up off the floor? And it seems like lazy, but like I already know it's like post-traumatic stress syndrome. Like I already know when I go make these movements, my knee's going to hurt, my hip's going to hurt, my elbow's going to hurt, my back's going to hurt. My body's going to need to make more energy. It's going to fatigue me. It's a struggle, and it's growing in America. I mean, it's anywhere between 30 and 50% of people in America have been diagnosed with chronic pain. So, and children are starting to get these juvenile arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis diagnoses. And, I just feel like modern medicine has all got us looking in the wrong direction, while the real reason why it's all happening is well studied. It's all out there and it's super simple, like conceptually, it's not like some magic, spectrometer that medicine has to create to figure out what's going on. We already know what's going on. It's
We really
yeah,
do depend on the medical community to provide us with answers because that's what we've been trained.
yeah,
Right? We've been medicalized is that I'm supposed to come to you, you're supposed to tell me what's wrong, and then you're supposed to fix it. And of course, there's not that. Sometimes I guess I can choose whether I'm going to fix you, maybe not you, whatever, that kind of
yeah.
thing. And so there's a frustration on top of whatever chronic condition you're also facing because it's like, why can't I undo this?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, undo. So there's a couple, I mean, different ways that the medical community is handcuffed, though, right? I mean, so like I've got these ideas on how you can like a strategy for like other things other than chronic pain, like how to get rid of cold sores, right? So there's been like this whole idea. So in my strategy, it's these 4 steps because it's in an envelope that needs to be destroyed. Then the virus is there. So you got to do the first step to get to the virus, and then this thing, and then this thing, right? But medicine, in the way that we study science, medical science, is you're only allowed to have a silver bullet approach. You
Mhm.
can't say, we're going to try these 4 things together. We can only try one thing at a time, and we can write a paper on that and let you know if that one singular thing was effective. And so that's no way to practice medicine. It's ridiculous. And then, so the other thing is, that I think they get 15, 20 minutes of nutritional education in their medical practice. I have to go see my doctor here soon. I rarely see them, and they kind of force me to every couple of years. And I just feel so bad for him because he's a younger guy, and I know he wants to be like this family doctor who's helping families. But I mean, they get relegated to giving people shots and putting them on medications and never finding a cure, or having the ability to actually heal somebody. And that's got to be frustrating for well-intentioned doctors.
Well, and I think that explorative piece has gone away as well. Like you're kind of taught like, oh, this is, somebody discovered this or somebody discovered that. And they're essentially just agents of the system
Yeah.
and really not allowed to kind of think outside the box,
Yeah, it's a shame. And it's
which is a
so,
bummer.
yeah, I mean, because there's so many people that need their help. And
Yeah.
then, somebody like me comes around, it's like, well, who's this Yahoo? He's some guy that played football who claims to have fibromyalgia or, whatever. And so it's tough because then the internet's going to troll you or make you seem illegitimate. And so, Dr. Mercola, I don't know if you know Dr. Mercola,
Mhm.
he was like the first Facebook guru. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have learned any of this stuff because he just happened to have a bunch of podcasts that I listened to that sort of led me down a couple paths. But he was the guy on Facebook back in the day where all quack, he's a quack, he's this, and it's turns out that these more holistic doctors are the ones who are really helping people.
Yeah, for sure. So the undo method, where did that come
Yeah.
from, and what are you hoping to accomplish with it?
So I came up with that name very, very early because I was undoing all this stuff that had happened to me. But I was also listening to a Dr. Mercola podcast at the time, and it was this couple that was talking about something, and they had said undo, and it just clicked in my mind, but I wanted it to be UNDU because of like Eastern Asian, like Hindu philosophies and the breathing techniques and the meditation. And so, I just knew early on as like the first little bits of my body would come loose. I was like, okay, I'm going somewhere. If I can just repeat that thing, what turns out now to be like millions of times over and over, I'm going to be able to help other people with this. So I had that kind of backed away in my mind. And then, so, I started creating, it's a program, and I used to charge for it. And last week I decided I'm just going to give it away for free. I just want people to have access to this tool so they can learn what are the main things that's causing chronic pain. And it's inflammation, poor collagen, glycation, oxidative stress, oxalates, and calcification. Right? They're the main things. And you can ask AI or go do all your own research, but I've got them covered. Right. And so all of those events leave something behind, right? So you like reverse engineer this whole thing. Where does pain come from in the first place? It comes from a pain receptor. Okay. Well, where are the pain receptors? It's part of the central nervous system. Well, so fibromyalgia is not a central nervous system processing disorder. The pain receptors are being aggravated too much by the oxalates, the oxidative stress, the inflammation, the poor collagen, et cetera. And so each one of those things are held together by chemical bonds or electrostatic interaction, which is kind of like a magnet. And there are ways to cleave those chemical bonds. And until those chemical bonds are cleaved, the body can't do anything. It can't cleave them. I mean, it can, but it's very limited in their resources. So once you cleave the bonds of these things that I call the offenders, the body can now send additional resources to slowly remove it from your body. So don't think of it like a waterfall. It's sort of just like a drip of stuff leaving your body, but it happens very quickly and you know that it's happening, right? So you're like encouraged and hopeful throughout the process. And then so I also put together a supplement called Flexibility Fuel. So each one of those offenders that I talked about, it's got a compound in there that targets that chemical bond to weaken it in the body, and then it starts leaving the body. It's fruit punch flavored. It's got essential amino acids. It's a really great supplement. And so I hope that people go to my website and sign up for and watch the Undo method. It's free, like free 100%. There's no gotcha at the end and a bunch of pop-ups that's going to ask you to buy anything. And when it's over, it's over. You've learned everything that I have to offer, right? And then so if they wanted to try my supplement, that would be great. But I give them the what the supplements are in the Undo method. They can go out and buy all the stuff on their own. They're all very easy to access supplements on Amazon. Everything is based in scientific research. Like there's nothing in there that grandma said do this, so I'm going to throw this in there, right? It's here is how this is happening. Here's how this supplement targets your specific problem. And then in the method, it says, here's where the problems are coming from. These are your foods. These are your lifestyle choices. These are the lack of certain nutrients that are causing this to happen. So it's a series of like 15 videos over some slides, very easy to digest and to learn. And I think it's a tremendous tool that fills in like every place that modern medicine has left gaps.
That's so if somebody were to come to you and start that, that's the first thing that they would do?
Yeah, I would say they would go to the website. They would sign up for a free profile. It's almost like a Facebook page. And then you'll have access to the Undo method, something I call the world's greatest shopping list, where it tells you here's the 90 essentials that your body needs. And these are the foods that have the most bioavailable version of that nutrient, amino acid, fat, or mineral in it so they can shop better for better health. A couple other things on how to build synovial fluid in the joint, like a meal plan for that. Just some really interesting tools that help the body reverse chronic pain naturally rather than having to go to a doctor and getting cut up and, parts replaced.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that happens. So you talked a little bit about the flexibility fuel, like what exactly is in it
Yeah.
and
So
how does
it's
it help the body?
Yeah, so I'm actually drinking some right here. It's essential amino acids as its base. So you need your essential amino acids to build healthy tissue, right? So, organs, tendons, ligaments, muscles. And then the blend of other things that's in it is PEA, which helps reduce the cytokines. Cytokines is that initial inflammatory starter, right? So inflammation is a cycle that's supposed to end with enzymes that your liver releases, cleaving, cutting up the scar that's left behind, the scab, the fibrin, right? But at the beginning, you have this cytokine release. So you want that to be dampened because once that's too much, you're going to have too much of the other inflammatory stuff happening. Then at the end, it leaves behind that clot, right? So then I've got enzymes in there, proteolytic enzymes from pineapple powder that act like our body's own enzymes that will then help the body degrade that fibrin that's left behind, which is kind of the clot, the scar, kind of scab you want to call it.
Mhm.
And then most people are building their collagen incorrectly. So bee propolis, which is from the bees, it's a polyflavonoid that breaks down old, inefficient collagen, right? We build up collagen all the time. You want to break down the bad stuff and get rid of it from the body. So the bee propolis helps with that, plus a ton of other things bee propolis is good for. Alpha lipoic acid is a antioxidant, right? So oxidative stress is one of the main things that are causing, cell tissue death, muscle stiffness, pain. And so this is adding those electrons back and pairing that free radical and making it stable. And then there's benfotiamine, which is a precursor to thiamine. So your nociceptors have a myelin sheath around it, right? And so those can become degraded. So the benfotiamine becomes thiamine, which helps rebuild that myelin sheath on your pain receptors, your nociceptors. What else is there? Hyaluronic acid, right? So hyaluronic acid holds on to like 1,000 times its molecular weight in water. So it increases your hydration potential. Lord, I feel malic acid, which helps with oxalates. I don't know if have you ever juiced spinach?
I'm sorry, what?
Have you ever juiced spinach?
No.
Okay, it's one of the worst things you can actually do because it has these little chemicals in it that turn into kidney stones. So when people are juicing spinach and drinking it, they're basically depositing kidney stones all throughout their soft tissue. And so malic acid helps soften up those kidney stones and helps the body to remove them. So glycation,
So
rutin,
I'm giving
yeah.
you a hard time because I was listening because I'm like sitting there going, he's not looking off a list.
No, 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 no. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
coming out of your brain, and I'm
I
like,
should be. Yeah.
damn, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Yeah. Once I learn something, I'm like a puzzle builder, right? If I got to learn where all the pieces are first, and that takes me a long time. But once I know where all the pieces are, then I can put the puzzle together pretty quickly.
No, it's fantastic that you have all this information. I'm just very impressed and probably a
Thank you.
little jealous.
Well, if you watch my program, it'll start becoming, it's like a playbook, right? In the NFL, you get this giant playbook and like, oh my God, I'm never going to learn these plays. And then a couple weeks later, you know most of the plays, and that's the way it was with me trying to learn, about health. I would go back and listen to podcasts over and over and over again, and Google words I didn't understand, and then that would lead me to other words I didn't understand, and I would just eventually I was just like, I'm going to figure this out, and so I know that I did. I can't claim that I did, but I know that I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you also have a breathwork practice.
Yeah. Part of what I put in the Undu method is my own technique called 33 breaths, because meditating is really hard, right? Especially for somebody beginning. Like, you don't really know what the goal was. And I was fortunate enough to find a guy on YouTube that kind of helped me conceptualize it. And then so I just started putting my own breathwork program together where you're doing 11 breaths for yourself, right? Just can I get 11 breaths in? Because when we're sitting here, we're only breathing deeply enough to deliver blood to the muscles that need it. And most of the day, we're not moving, right? And so we're not breathing deeply enough to deliver blood, which carries the nutrients and the oxygen and electricity to the muscles. So anyway, you take those first 11 breaths for you, and you'll find it's kind of hard. You're like, geez, oh my God, I got to do this. And then the next 11 you're doing for your gratitudes, like thank you for whatever it is. Thank you for the bad stuff. Thank you for the good stuff. It's all a learning experience. Thank you. And then for the next 11, you're really like searching inward. And so when I talk about everything is energy, like everything is energy, that's how, we can send phone signals across the world because it's traveling on energy. And so there's a concept, and it depends if you can be an atheist or a Christian or whatever. The energy is still there. You can call it God or the ether or whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. So that you just can't deny its existence. And so I tell people you're going to search inward for your pineal gland, and then you're going to hook it up to the antenna. You're going to put it up as antenna to take in the energy of the ether, right? And as you're looking inward, you forget about trying to drown out sound, which I think is what a lot of people try to do
Mhm.
when they're trying to meditate. They're just trying to concentrate. It's like, no, you need to be looking. You're constantly searching. And so every day that I do that, I have a good day. So if you can do your 33 breaths, which does not seem like a lot, but I don't get them every day, just, the way life is.
That's fantastic. So if someone is listening right now, what is one thing that you hope that they can take away to get out of chronic pain
Yeah.
and possibly have a better outlook?
I think the most important thing is understanding inflammation, because inflammation is thought of to be the root of all disease, right? And so inflammation is a cycle of healing that starts at the cell wall, and that cell wall is very important in how it's constructed. I mean, this is one of the most important things you'll ever learn. The cell wall is made up of omega 3s and omega 6s, and a 1-to-1 ratio is the perfect ratio. The omega 6 is pro inflammatory, meaning that when the cell wall is stressed, the omega 6 is going to respond to that pressure, to that stressor, to that heat, whatever it is. That 1-to-1 ratio, Americans are a 15-to-1 ratio on average. Now, if I eat that slice of pizza, because hopefully I've got a 1-to-1 ratio, and someone with the 15-to-1 ratio, your inflammatory response is going to be so much greater than the person with the 1-to-1 ratio. So it's really important to know that omega 6s are mainly coming from our manufactured foods. It's the seed oils that are so abundant in our food supply. But the omega 3 will naturally displace the omega 6 when it's in vicinity of the cell. It has an affinity for it. So it's very easy to make that switch. So if that's one thing people can take away, I hope it's that, like, focus on your cells and building that omega 3 to omega 6 ratio closer to a 1-to-1, and your inflammation will slow down tremendously.
That's great advice. I love that. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you or work with you in the future, where would they find you?
Yeah, so my website is undu.me. So it's undo.me. And then from there, you can order flexibility fuel. Takes 2 days or so to get to you. It's a 30-day supply, but you can really stretch it to 60 if you're just doing half a scoop in the morning. I take it like 3, 4 times a day because I'm just like, "Let's go," you know? So, like, it's every time I take it, I get more movement. And then they can also sign up for it's called the Undu Method Chronic Pain Playbook, right? It'll take you to another platform where you sign up there, and then it's just like a Facebook page, right? Very simple. And then you just watch the video series and, it should take you a day or two at the most to get through it. Most I think videos are between like 5 and 10 minutes, and I'm uploading version 2 here, hopefully by the weekend. So I've moved some things around, made it a little, I hope, simpler to understand. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and your mission, and we appreciate having you.
Thank you so much, Dana. I appreciate you having me here.